Hello everyone, welcome to my YouTube channel where we do painting tutorials. So today I want to discuss about how much water should you use, like how much water is too much water with watercolor pencils. I'm going to use the general rule that more water equals less color and more color needs less water. So in a short answer, it really depends on the subject you're going to paint. Too much water makes it faint and you can still see the background. So for an example, if you need a loose, soft, diffused background, you need a lot of water, and by a lot I mean if you take your brush out of the water jar and it's dripping, that's perfect. Also, a little tip for those diffused backgrounds, I like to go with this quote-unquote technique first, get all wet because watercolor pencils dry fast. I go from the bottom to the top, and then I repeat the motion without reweighing it from the bottom upwards again. What this does is it blends the pencil marks and fully dissolves them. Get the brush soaking wet, go from the bottom upwards in horizontal motions. Do not re-wet the brush and repeat again from the bottom top. The other extreme, let's say you're painting a body of water like a sea, a lake, or maybe you're painting fur or human hair, then I like to use what I call dry brushing. Well, it's almost similar to dry brush and gives this very soft, natural looking effect in my opinion. You need to wet the brush and then pat it dry on all sides, back and front, onto a napkin, a piece of toilet paper, a piece of kitchen paper, it doesn't really matter. But you want it to be pretty much dry. It should not leave a droplet behind. You can test it by tapping it on your wrist or the back of your hand. It should not leave a droplet. And you need to do this a lot because brush is obviously dry, and if you're painting a bigger area like I am, you're gonna need to repeat this to get the entire area covered. So it can be a bit tedious, but as a bonus you get this very nice texture, and since the brush dries out as you start to paint, it starts to skip bits of the area, the background, lake, whatever, and it looks like sparkles, it looks like very natural highlights, and I like this effect very, very much. Now let's say you just want to activate something, aka make it vibrant without dissolving it. So think of tree trunks, think of tree crowns, think of detailed flower petals, or this boat I'm doing right now basically. Just anything you want to be more defined from the rest of your painting is what I'm going at right here. For that, a great test to figure out how much water is too much is dip your brush in the water jar, dry it slightly, like just a tap, onto the napkin and check it on the back of your wrist. It should feel wet, like, you know, like when you pet a dog and its nose is all wet. Yeah, that's how it should feel. But it should not leave a droplet behind. It should not leave a droplet on your wrist. And if there is a droplet, then it's way too wet. Tap it again on the napkin and go until it does no longer leave a droplet. That's just one of my favorite tests and the easiest way to nail this down, in my opinion. And then just go from light to dark if you do have a light to dark gradation going on in your subject. So those are the three main focuses on which I work in my paintings, so those I feel confident on commenting about, and how I personally regulate myself with a normal wooden handle brush. And I'd also like to add that I'm using a synthetic fiber brush, and I highly recommend it for watercolor pencils because yes, it does not hold too much water, so you don't risk soaking your pencils to the point they just bleed out completely and it turns very pale and faint because again it does not hold too much water, but the actual bristles are stiff enough to be able to freely move around the pigment and you don't get weird chalky effects, or sometimes it almost looks like granulation You know, if you've used normal watercolors, how they leave tiny granules and particles if the pigment is a bit too rough. And plus we have the cruelty-free effect. But yeah, I do highly recommend using a synthetic brush. You absolutely do not need to use the exact one I am using right now. This is just a Da Vinci brush I got a couple of years ago, and I actually really love it. And if you've been on my channel for a longer bit, you know that the other brush I love to use is a reservoir brush. They basically have a little reservoir for water instead of a handle, and since it has a tiny pump in the beginning, it just makes the flow of water very regular, and you don't need to worry as much of how much water. Is it too much? Is it too little? What if it dries up on me? Because if your pencils do dry on you and they're cheaper quality, there is no way to reactivate them, especially with cheap quality pencils. Like, I've been there and I know the struggle. So if you'd like to see a comparison between a normal brush and a reservoir brush, I have done a similar video a couple of months ago just on the blending aspect. But if you'd like me to talk a bit more in depth, let me know in the comments down below. And this actual painting tutorial, like what I'm doing step by step, is going to be available over at my Patreon page along with the traceable file. I'm going to upload it as soon as I get to editing it, and that's probably going to be at the beginning of next week, definitely before the end of the month. So yeah, if you'd like to first support me and the channel and like full-time paint along with me kind of videos, digital downloads and extra goodies, you can find me at Sunshine Arts. Know of the supplies, sketchbook, auxiliary materials and so on, and the reference picture will be linked down below in the description of this video. So thank you very much to my Patreon supporters for the month of July, and thank you all for watching. I really hope you found this video useful. I just want to touch up on the subject because I thought it may be helpful to beginners and even people that have been painting for a while. So thank you all for watching, and we'll see each other in the next video. Bye bye!